Oh yes, hi, hey, hello. I did go out and buy more books. And this is the damage that I have done. Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Or welcome back if you are a returning viewer. Thank you for being here again and sticking with me through my madness. If you're new here, my name is Inger. I am a person who likes to read. If you've not yet seen my 2026 reading goals and planning video, you won't exactly know what all of this is about, but I will give you a brief rundown of what's happening, if you will. In 2026, I want to read a book by a classic author for every letter of the alphabet. So A to Z, an author who's I think I did everybody's surnames. An author whose surname ends with every letter of the alphabet. So for instance, for A, I have picked Jane Austen. For B, I have Anne Bronte. For C, I have Agatha Christie, and so forth. Those three actually all just happen to be women. I do also have men on my list. I think I actually probably have more men on my list than women. But that's how it ended up. That's just how it worked out. But in order to be able to read those 26 books, I do need to own those 26 books. I don't have all of them in physical form. I actually also don't even own all of them yet, because some of them are just going to have to come to me at a later date. I've decided. Some of them, I actually own one of the copies of the books that I need already, but it's back in South Africa. So hopefully my mother comes to visit Germany this year. She's planning on doing it, but she will just have to bring that book with me. Luckily it's a very small book, so it's not going to take up much space. But with all that said, I do have some books to haul for you. So I have three different piles here. I have my ordered in Germany from the bookstore that I always order my books from. Then I have a pile of books that I bought while I was in London at the end of last year with my sister. And then I have one book that I bought at the train station just on a random day. But we're going to go through them as quickly as possible because I don't want to drag this video out longer than it needs to be. So first off, we have A Terrible Beauty is Born by W.B. Yeats. This is part of my 26 classic books, obviously Yeats for why, and it is a short book. I also picked mostly short books for my 26 books for the year, or my 26 alphabetical books, let's call them that, because I want to give myself as great a chance of succeeding as possible. I know you did see like this massive tome of a book here. That's not part of my classics reading situation. That's for an entirely different endeavor, but it's not part of my classic situation. Then next up I have Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I own her copy, her book We Should All Be Feminists, and I read the book, and then my sister borrowed the book and read it and asked me if I owned any of her other books because she really liked her writing style and would like to read more. And so for Christmas I bought a copy of Purple Hibiscus and I bought a copy of Half of a Yellow Sun, and I let my sister choose which of the two she wanted. So she got one Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie book and then I got the other one. And so we can also swap between us two, so that we can both read both books, you know? But I own the yellow book, she owns the purple book. So there's that. Then, next up, we have a book that is not at all related to anything else on this list, but it is a copy of by Julia Shaw, The Hidden Culture, History and Science of Bisexuality. If you didn't know, I am bisexual. Now you know. The more you know. But I feel like often bisexuality is kind of glossed over in the spectrum of queerness, and there's a lot of people who don't believe it exists. There's a lot of people also within the community who are not supportive and they don't really like bisexuals very much, if I can put it that way. And also I feel like there's not a lot known about bisexuality because people kind of don't really know what it is, and they kind of also don't believe that it's possible to be bisexual. So as a result, even bisexuals don't really know that much about bisexuality, other than that we know that we are. So I thought I should read a book about it because I'm interested to know more. And honestly, this was just on the book website that I usually order my books from. And it looked interesting, and so I ordered it. Next up on my list we have Dubliners, where if it will focus, there we go, Dubliners by James Joyce. This is part of my 26 books for the year, and I really loved this cover. This is Signature Editions by Union Square and Co. They have two different collections that are both called Signature Editions, but they look different. So I think these are the... I'm actually not sure. These might be the old Signature Editions or older Signature Editions. Or maybe they are the newer Signature Editions. Hold on, when was this edition published? Let's see. Oh no, this is a 2024 edition. So these are the new Signature Editions. And I really like this kind of style of having pieces of art on the front covers of these books. I have another Signature Edition that I'm going to talk to you soon about, and two more of the books that I have on my list for my 26 alphabetical books. I've also ordered in Signature Edition covers. Whether or not they will arrive in Signature Edition covers is another question, because I have had the unfortunate disaster that I ordered a book with a certain cover and then the cover that arrived was not that cover. But I'm over it. I'm totally not still miffed about that. Not at all. So there's that, Dubliners. Then the tome of a book that you have been seeing is, of course, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. And this is another Signature Edition. It has another old painting on the front cover and all the way around. I really like these covers. This book, I never in my life did I ever think I was gonna read War and Peace, because it is 1,612 pages long, and I don't read quickly at all. But I heard that all of the chapters are really short, so you could read a chapter or two a day and then slowly but surely make your way through the book over a very, very long period of time, but at least you would get through it and you wouldn't feel intimidated by the fact that the book is as big as your head. I had the misfortune of having a disaster happen to me. A book disaster, if you will, in that I ordered a copy of a book with a beautiful cover, a very specifically beautiful cover that I specifically chose because I liked that cover more than any other cover. And then when the book arrived, it was not the cover that I had ordered. So I ordered a copy of The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway, and I'm going to put a picture of the cover that I ordered over here for your reference, so that you can see that it is beautiful, that it is pretty, that I would have loved to have had this book with this cover on my bookshelf. I would have loved to have owned this version of the book. What instead I got was this. Now don't get me wrong. I was going to say this is not an ugly cover. Actually, I do think it is an ugly cover. I do actually think that this is a horrible cover, and I don't understand why I was sent this instead of this. I should actually check. This is Simon & Schuster, Scribner Books. I should go back and check if the cover that I ordered was a Scribner publication. I don't understand why, if I order a book with a specific cover, you send me a different cover. you know? So I'm going to spend the rest of my time on this earth hunting for this book with the cover that I actually wanted it in. I will not be making annotations in this book because I do not want to get attached to this copy of this book, because I do not want this cover on this copy of this book that I own. Okay? Call me petty, call me judging a book by its cover. I am. Because this cover is ugly. Now that I have gone off on my rant, we can move on to my next pile of books, which are the London books. I almost said the London Scene, because that is a Virginia Woolf book, but in fact it is not the London Scene, it is just books I bought in London. I also bought Postcards in London, a little red telephone box, and a map of London with notable locations on it. So there's those two. I don't know if anybody cares about postcards, but I went to 3 different bookshops actually I went to 4 different bookshops in London, but I only bought books at 3 of them. And I'm going to tell you all about them in chronological order. So first off, my sister and I were walking along Queen's Walk. We went to see Tower Bridge, as every tourist does. And then we took a left turn, I think, left turn, yes, and walked into the city, away from all the tourists. We had walked past the Christmas markets, we had seen the things. And so we decided to walk into the city, and we happened upon a bookshop. Well, my sister actually had on Google Maps seen that there was a bookshop nearby, and decided we were going to go to this bookshop. It is called the Riverside Bookshop. What a lovely little bookshop. It's a double-story bookshop, and it's very small, and it's on the corner of a building, very small, lovely staff, and 2 stories, very cute books. I think only new books. We only went to one second-hand bookshop, and that is the one where I did not buy any books at, because I didn't see anything that I wanted. So, what I got at the Riverside Bookshop was a copy of The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gillman. This is not on my 26 books list, but I am slowly but surely just accumulating a lot of classics. I am in my classics era. For some reason I just feel really drawn to classics at the moment. So, I have a copy of this now. Then next up we went to Daunt Books in Notting Hill. We actually went to Notting Hill to go to Cheeky Scone, which is a restaurant, or a sconery, if you will. Turns out every other tourist also wanted to go to Cheeky Scone. We did eventually get a scone. We got 4 scones, actually, between the 2 of us. It was too many. We should have just gotten 2 scones, but we wanted to try them all. So, or at least all the options they had available that day. So we ate our scones, and then we walked around Notting Hill a little bit. We walked down Portobello Road, and eventually we made our way to Daunt Books. And at Daunt Books, I found 2 books that I am going to read. I have been seeing these Penguin Archive books a lot recently, and so I was very happy when I found Penguin Archive books at Daunt Books as well. I bought a copy of The History of England by a Partial, Prejudiced and Ignorant Historian by Jane Austen, because it just seems like it would be a fun time. They also gave me a bookmark at Daunt Books. You can see what Daunt Books looks like. Daunt Books at Notting Hill. If it will focus for me. Please focus. Here we go. That's what their facade of their bookshop looks like. And it's on a little bookshop. On a bookshop? On a bookmark. Wow. So there we go. I'm very intrigued to read this. What's supposed to be a very witty history of England. Then the next one I have, A Pale View of the Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is on my list of 26 books. He is my letter I, obviously, and it is I actually don't know if this is his debut. Yes, this is his debut novel. It is also the shortest book he has written. So if there was a different book by him that was shorter than this one, I wouldn't be reading his debut. But now I am reading his debut and I'm quite interested to read it. And then, lastly, I ended up at Foyles on Charing Cross Road, the Foyles at Charing Cross Road. Because specifically, I wanted to go to 84 Charing Cross Road, which is now a McDonald's, because there was supposed to be a plaque on the floor that said, this 84 Charing Cross Road used to be a bookshop called Mark Cross and Sons, or Marks and Co. Marks and Co, I think. Lo and behold, we went to 84 Charing Cross Road. There was no plaque in sight. It was dark and it was also raining a little bit, but I looked on the floor and I did not see anything that looked remotely like it could be a plaque. So possibly they've had the plaque removed, which would be very sad. Or I'm just too stupid and I didn't see it, which is also very likely, very possible. There was another bookshop on Charing Cross Road that we went into, which was the second-hand bookshop, which I don't remember the name of right now. Very interesting layout for the bookshop. It is floor level and then a basement level of books. And they have some interesting titles in there. We didn't spend very much time in there though. I spent a long time staring at the classics section at Foyles, not finding any of the books that I was expecting to find in the classics section. So specifically at Foyles I was looking for And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut, because those were the two books on my list. I made a list of books that I was looking out for when I went to London, because they are hard to come by in Germany, or at least specifically with the covers that I like. Especially God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. It is... I don't know why it's so difficult to find that book in this country, but it is. So I decided I would take my time in London when I went to a bookshop to look for those books specifically. I didn't find any of them in the classics section, so I got a little bit despondent. I walked around. I found the poetry section. I thought, well, fine. If I'm not going to find my classics, then I'll just look at poetry and find some poetry collections that I like. Obviously, I found so many poetry collections that I would love to have. For instance, The Orange and Other Poems, and Seamus Heaney's Death of a Naturalist, and also Joe Shapcott's Of Mutability, and just a couple of other things. When I tell you, every time I look at a poetry collection, I am surprised at how expensive poetry collections are for the amount of pages that I'm getting. It is the same price to buy a poetry collection that is like 50 pages long than it is to buy a 200-page novel. And I understand poetry is an art form. It is difficult to write poetry. It is not easy, and it takes a certain specific type of mind to be able to write good poetry that stands the test of time. I understand that. So I understand that I am paying for the craft and not really for the product. But every time I look at a poetry collection, I'm like, oh, I could be buying a novel for that amount of money. So I didn't buy any poetry, even though they did have a copy of Emily Dickin's collected works, which is about as big as War and Peace. Not quite. Don't think it's quite 1,000 pages long, and only like £7 more expensive than a 50-page poetry collection. So I left the poetry section and went on to the essays and letters section, which is where I found my first win. I found a copy of Love Letters between Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville-West. This is not really the copy of the book that I would like. I would have loved... I think it's actually not exactly the same book anyway. I know that this is the most recent publication of these letters, but there is a version of this book that is older, that is hardcover, that has different letters, more letters, or something. There's some difference about it. But I specifically actually would love that copy of the book. I can make do with this copy of it. I can be okay with just these letters. Okay? Yes. So there's that. Then I have The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction by Ursula K. Le Guin. I did Ursula K. Le Guin's writing routine a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago now. And ever since then I've been really intrigued by her as a person and her as a writer. I have still not read anything she has written, sadly. I'm going to be reading something she has written though, because I now own this book, but also because I want to write... what? Because I want to buy some of her fiction works. And the people in the comments of that video have left me so many lovely, helpful recommendations, so at some point I will get around to reading one of her books. And it probably will be this one first, to be honest. Then, next up, I ended up buying 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene, hanff, which is about the bookshop that used to be at 84 Charing Cross Road. But I've heard a lot about this book very often on my favourite book podcast, Books Unbound. And they love this book, and so I thought I would give it a try. Also now having been at technically 84 Charing Cross Road, I want to see what it used to be before it became a McDonald's. Then, lastly, I did manage to find a copy of And Then There Were None, because I realised after looking unsuccessfully in the classics section that in fact Agatha Christie's books might be in the crime section, since she is the queen of crime. And lo and behold, I did find her books in the crime section. She has a whole bookshelf all to herself, and right next to her, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had a whole bookshelf to himself as well. So I'm very glad to now own a copy of this book. I'm going to be reading this as part of my 26 books. I did end up finding a copy of God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater as well, but at that point I had already 4 books in my hand, and my bank account is not, you know, a bottomless pit. And so I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna also buy God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. They also didn't really have the cover that I liked the most, so I'm coverist, if you will. I'm coverist, okay? I will freely admit it. So I decided that I'm just going to get a copy of God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater as an ebook, because first of all, cheaper, and second of all, then I could get the cover that I like. And also it doesn't really matter what cover I get because it's just an ebook. It's not a physical copy of a book that I have to display on my bookshelf back there. Right. Winding it down with the last book, I went to see my friend just after Christmas. We met up spontaneously. We had not spoken in years, since finishing high school, really. We hadn't really spoken much to each other, but somehow she found me on YouTube and sent me an email, because I'm not on any other social media platforms, and she didn't have my number anymore, my phone number. I also have a different phone number, obviously, than I did in South Africa. And so she sent me an email, and we met up in a town not too far away from where I live, a couple of hours away for her. And my train got in a little bit earlier than hers did, so I thought I would go and browse the bookshop while I waited for her train to arrive. And what did I do? I bought a book. Of course I bought a book. I've never heard of this book before, but it looked interesting, and I like it when I can walk into a bookshop and just buy a book that I find there and that I've never heard of before. I used to do that when I was younger, before BookTube and all of the things started. Everybody started recommending books to you on the internet everywhere. Before all of that started, People used to just walk into bookshops and buy a book, or unless they had read a review of it in the newspaper or their friend had told them about it personally, people would just go into bookshops and buy something they found there, and I kind of miss doing that. So I thought, I'm just going to go into this bookshop. Mostly they will just have German books anyway, and see what I can find. Boy, did I find the brightest book cover in that whole bookshop, I swear. So this is The Book You Want Everyone You Love to Read by Phillipa Perry, and then it has a little asterisk here, and at the bottom it says, and maybe a few you don't. So on the cover it also says, sane and sage advice to help you navigate all of your most important relationships. So this book is about relationships from a psychoanalyst? Psycho something. Hold on. Psychotherapist Phillipa Perry shows you how to approach life's big problems. I thought it sounds like it could be an interesting book to read, and once I'm done with it, I can give it to the people I love the most. Possibly a slight angle change because my battery died. But anyway, I was saying I will then lend this book to my sister, because she is the everyone I love who actually lives close to me and reads books in English. So there's that. That is my last book on my list of books that I have bought. I've spent way too much money on in the recent months. And so let me hold them, oh my gosh, all up for you so you can see them all at once. You can see all of my poor financial decisions all in one go. Do they all actually fit on the book on the screen? Yes, they do. Just barely though. So there's that. And of course I've dropped them again. The amount of times that I have dropped these books today, it's actually... I should become a comedy sketch show with the amount of times that these books have fallen today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can, if you would like to do so, leave it a like, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, you can subscribe to the channel and come along for this 26 alphabetical book extravaganza that I'm doing, and also all the other books that I'm planning on reading this year. I don't know where I think I have the time to do all this. But anyway, I'm gonna do it nonetheless. I'm gonna find the time somewhere. I'm gonna go to an alternate universe and find the time. Anyway, thank you for being here. I will see you all in my next video. Cheers.